Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the final word with MattyB here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Your our Sunday night, beginning of our broadcast week. It's Christmas week, folks. Welcome to the holiday season. Officially, we are in the Christmas window, and I hope everybody is full of Christmas cheer, joy, and happiness. And I truly mean that. Because I believe tonight is going to get raw for some of you. Yeah, I think tonight's going to be a coming to Jesus moment, if you will, if you are of the Christian persuasion. I think we're going to have that moment here. But that's okay, because that's what I'm here for. Think of me as Santa Claus. Think of me as, instead of bringing you physical presents and gifts, I will bring you peace of mind. I will bring you clarity. I will bring you perspective. Because if anything else in this world, baby, I can give you perspective, and I want to do it. So welcome. We got a busy night here on the program because, boy, the sky has fallen. That's right. Houston, we got a problem. You know, all the King's horses, all the King's men couldn't put Jalen Hurts together again. We are in crisis mode here in the city of Philadelphia, just mere hours after the Philadelphia Eagle 10-game historic 10-game winning streak has come to an end, a fateful end at the hands of the Washington Commanders, who, amongst a lot of things that occurred down there in old Maryland over the last, when the game ended, about 4 o'clock, 4:30ish. There has been a lot of table hitting around the Delaware Valley. And it's funny because some of the stuff has gone from levels of insanity to levels of ridiculousness to levels of complete delusionality. And that's not even a word. And I want to try to lend perspective, because what I think is the funniest thing, not the funniest, but the most alarming thing about today's game, about the outcome of the Eagle Commander game, is not the fact that the Eagle Nation, and more specifically the slobbering homers of Eagles Nation, are having the hardest time dealing with, is not the loss. No, it's the fact that their quarterback, who got hurt and left the game, and that the backup came in and did not perform up to par, they're feeling good about that part. That's the part that is alarming me. They're taking solace in the fact that Jalen Hurts' replacement, Kenny Pickett, came in and was not playing up to the level, allegedly, of an MVP caliber quarterback that Jalen Hurts allegedly is. Now, Kenny Pickett did not have a great game. Game plan wasn't tailored for Kenny Pickett, right? I mean, he's the backup quarterback for a reason. And as a backup quarterback, you come in under certain conditions, and you have to do your best you can to kind of grapple hold of it and do the best you can. Did Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni do the best they could for Kenny Pickett in this circumstance? Did they? Did they provide him a Kenny Pickett-like game plan? Now, typically speaking, when you have a backup quarterback, that backup quarterback typically, or maybe not, maybe atypically now, I don't know how it is, I guess, anymore in the NFL, is supposed to kind of fit or mirror the skill sets of the starter. So that if that situation does happen, they come in and it's a kind of a seamless transition, as seamless as it can be. Kenny Pickett's not the same type of quarterback as Jalen Hurts. No, he's not. He doesn't have the same type of skill set. That was evident by how Washington defended him. A lot of cover zero, no more zone, a lot of man, a lot of beat us with your arm, we dare you type stuff, which it worked out well for the Commanders today. But it's the funniest thing, man. They're taking solace in that. Oh, well, it supports the narrative that Jalen Hurts is very important to this team. I don't doubt that Jalen Hurts is very important to this team. He's the starting quarterback for a reason. He gets paid the kind of money he does for a reason. Whether I agree or don't agree with that reason, it's completely immaterial. But the bottom line was the quarterback or the backup quarterback was inadequately prepared or inadequately equipped to pull out the game today. And who does that fall upon? Does that fall upon the coaching? Does that fall upon your fraud of a GM, Howie Roseman? Don't forget, didn't they give up a 3rd round draft pick for him? 4th round pick, something like that? Not looking like a good trade at this point. And now going forward for the rest of the season, because now there's still no NFC East division clinch. There's still no positioning clinched in the playoffs. They're going to have no choice but to start somebody next week against Dallas and potentially in the final week against the Giants. So that's the first thing I find very funny. Now, we're going to get it. Obviously, this is going to be geared completely towards the Eagles, but we're going to try to mix in some baseball because the Phillies made a move today too, which, like it or not, is what they did. And then if we really have the time, we're going to work in some Flyers because it was a weekend for the Flyers as well. And then, Nina chiming in with, yay, live on Facebook. Yes, thank you. And then for those of you who do not know, we went over the 100th follower threshold on our Facebook today. So we now have the opportunity to actually stream directly through our Facebook. So I want to thank everybody out there that made that possible. Most of you watching here tonight probably are part of that group. So thank you very, very, very much for that, as my wife attests. So, and Steve checking in with a comment from last night's postgame show. Cam York's ass is in jackpot with Andre right now. Yes. Okay. All right, Steve. That is the hockey point of the night. We'll hopefully get to hockey in a little bit. But on the show tonight, we are going to have your day in Philadelphia sports history. We're going to continue the Eagles conversation as has obviously is the flavor in town right now. We're going to get into some baseball stuff. And if at all possible, at the end of all this, we'll talk some Flyers because it was a weekend for the Fly guys as they pulled one out last night against the Columbus Blue Jackets. That deserves another look at. I had the post game last night, so we'll hopefully get to that. So let's not waste any more time and remind everybody that this is brought to you by the good folks here at the It's a Wrap Sports Network, where you are. I promise you one thing. A lot of people will say, well, you come on my show, I'll make sure that I answer your question. Or if you come on my show, your opinion matters to me and all that. What kind of self-gratification crap is that? You come on my show and leave me a comment, I'll get to it. If I get to it, if I don't, I don't. I appreciate your comments, but sometimes they run late and I won't get to it. And yes, I am not going to tell you that I'm going to agree with you. I probably won't, but we're grown people here, right? We're all grown folk and we can handle that. So I just want to put that out right off the bat because a lot of people are misunderstanding what this is all about. A lot of people. So just want to put that out as a PSA, so to speak. But I do appreciate all the help and all the support because we need it to make this even better than it is today. So let's get into our day in Philadelphia sports history. On this date, 1862, that's right, during the Civil War. And I was not here for this, all right? I was not roaming the streets of Philadelphia on December the 22nd, 1862. But on this date, Cornelius McGillicuddy was born into the world. Everyone might be thinking, well, it was up there in East Brockford, Massachusetts. Who was Cornelius McGillicuddy? Well, you might know him as his surname. Connie Mack was born into the world on this day back in 1862. The future owner-manager of the Philadelphia A's came into the world on this day. And with him, obviously, has become one of the most endeared figures, either love or hate him, in Philadelphia sports history. Brought some early success to the American League franchise that dwelled upon this city for a lot of years and had a stadium named after him and all. So happy birthday posthumously to Mr. Connie Mack, born on this day back in 1862. And there it is, your day in Philadelphia sports history, brought to you by the good folks over here at It's a Wrap Sports. And now let's get on to the main event. As I said at the beginning of the program, I am here for you to help you. If you're having problems processing a lot of stuff that's happened over the last 3 or 4 or 5 hours, please unburden yourselves with me. I am here to talk to you about it, and I am here to lend you that respectful ear, and we'll work through all this together. I promise you. So let me have it. I'm listening. Yeah, Barbara. What is up? Hey, Matty, tough loss today, but it's all about winning in the playoffs, home or away. Yes, Barbara, it is indeed. I know there's a lot of talk about the positioning. Oh, we want the 1 seed. We want the 2 seed. I know a lot of teams out there. I know at least, 6 of them in the AFC now and 7, I think, in the NFC who would take any seed at this particular moment in time. They don't really care about the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6, or the 7. They just want 1. So it doesn't matter, you're right, where they got to play. Ultimately, the goal is to win a Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl is not played at home. It's played on neutral territory. And all this talk about today's loss damaging a potential number 1 seed, which might be the truth, because Detroit just keeps winning. That should be the furthest thing from a lot of Eagle fans' mind right now, Barbara, is where the venue of the playoffs will be. It doesn't matter. It really, truly doesn't. And honestly, Eagles are going to win the division. We all know that. But where they're going to come out and all this at the end, who knows? They're going to get a first-round home game anyway. But all that stuff doesn't matter to me either. It doesn't. It's about winning a Super Bowl and about doing what you got to do to win that Super Bowl. And we're going to absolutely now, I guess, is this the adversity that we've been waiting for? Week 15 or week 16, finally it's here. Adversity has hit the Philadelphia Eagles. Oh, my God. Shudder the idea. Whew. But let's get into the game. Come on. I want to talk about the game because that was fun. It was an entertaining game. You got to admit. It was a fun back and forth game. In the beginning, it looked like it was lights out for the Commanders. Saquon Barkley in the first quarter. First of all, let's talk about the Eagles in the first quarter. Heading into this game, the Eagles had not scored on an opening drive, or not scored a touchdown, mind you, on an opening drive at all in 2024. They, what was it? They got a 3-and-out, or was it a turnover? Did they get a turnover on the opening drive of the Commanders? Well, they got the ball back deep in their territory. They go in, they punch it in for the first, congratulations, the first opening drive touchdown of 2024. And the pedal was on the metal because they were forcing turnovers. They were moving the football at an epic clip. Saquon Barkley in the first quarter of this game. Listen to this line. Well, I wrote it down. Where did I write it? I wrote it down right here somewhere. It is 7 carries, 109 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That was his numbers in the first quarter. Are you kidding me? That's like, what was he on his way for? He was on his way for over a 400-yard rushing day. And what? 8 touchdowns? Was he on pace for? I mean, the guy was all over the place, and he was breaking through and doing everything he was doing. It was a party in Maryland. The Eagles were on their way to crushing the Commanders. Forcing turnovers, scoring first quarter touchdowns. They came into this game with 3 total first quarter touchdowns all season long. None on the opening drive. They got 1 on the opening drive. They scored 3 first quarter touchdowns in this game alone, doubling their output all season long. Amazing. But then, dun, 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 the sky fell. On a play that you can call it what you want. An illegal, dirty hit, a helmet-to-helmet contact hit, a nasty hit, a mean hit, well, whatever you want to call it. Jalen Hurts gets knocked out of the game because of concussion-like symptoms and has to leave the game. No penalty was called on the play, and there's something to that. Was it a dirty hit? Yeah, there was contact. I'll give you that. There was. And they might have gotten away with one. And we're definitely going to talk about the refs today. Oh, yeah, because I have a lot to say about that, you bunch of babies. They lose Jalen Hurts, and then everything changes, right? Kenny Pickett comes in, doesn't have the kind of dynamic that Jalen Hurts has, doesn't have the kind of pizzazz that Jalen Hurts has. The Commanders completely changed their defensive approach. They put everybody up on the line, play a lot of cover zero, and force Kenny Pickett to beat him with his arm. And Kenny Pickett struggled with that, but he made plays too. You know, Kenny Pickett wasn't out there throwing balls into the ground the entire game. He did throw an interception. He wasn't moving the offense as stellarly as everybody else, as Jalen Hurts was. But if the complete dynamic changes because of the loss of Jalen Hurts, and I mean like completely changes, because apparently the loss of Jalen Hurts led to Saquon Barkley rushing for 109 yards in the first quarter, by mind you, but yet finishing the game with only 100 and what did he finish the game with? 150. So he finishes the game in the next 3 quarters with 40 some odd yards rushing. So did that change the dynamic that much? Yeah, they were playing a lot up on the line. They were forcing Kenny Pickett to beat him. But the Eagles were not helping Kenny Pickett yet either. They weren't trying to get creative with their play calling, right? There was a lot of things that did change. And I'll give you that. I'll give you that 100%, that dynamic changed. But it's not because, in my opinion, they lost Jalen Hurts. This is a championship level team, right? And that's what I keep hearing from all you homers out there. This is a deep team led to the promised land by St. Howie. So the whole thing came apart because they lost your quarterback? I mean, is that what you're trying to tell me? I'm not sitting here telling you that the things didn't change in this game because of the loss of Jalen Hurts. And I'm also not going to sit here and tell you that the Eagles were not on the bad end of some bad calls in the first half. They were also on the positive end of some bad calls in the second half too. It balanced itself out. And we'll get into the unnecessary roughness, unsportsmanlike conduct crap and all that, and the CJ, DJ ejection and all that here in a second. But I'm not, and there is something to that. But so then the whole circus collapses because of Jalen Hurts. What about Saquon Barkley, your MVP candidate running back? I mean, shouldn't he be able to make something from nothing? He only rushed for some 49 yards or so at the rest of the way in that game after busting off over 100 yards in one quarter. Now, were they attacking differently? Yeah, they were. I'll agree. But we have the Statland University offensive line, the greatest offensive line since the dawn of time. They couldn't clear the hole. They looked lost at times. Kenny Pickett was serviceable in this game. But don't forget, your GM brought him here to be the backup quarterback. Stuff like this happens. Injuries occur. You got to do the best you can. It didn't derail the 2017 Eagles. Remember that? We lost our starting quarterback. They ended up winning a Super Bowl. Now, I don't think that's going to happen with Kenny Pickett. But what are you telling me here? That because you got cheated by the refs in the first half because of an illegal hit to your quarterback, which, yeah, I mean, you have something there. It was a dirty, nasty little hit. I'll give you that. That instead of fighting and trying to win a game and then ultimately at the end of that game accepting the outcome for what it is, you're going to sit here and stomp around saying we got cheated because of a bad referee? And well, it's like the WWF. I just don't understand. What's the narrative here? What's everybody looking for here? Eagles got punched in the face today. The Washington Commanders committed 5 turnovers, and the Eagles lost. Let that sink in a little bit. Was that Jalen Hurts' fault? No. Jaden Daniels outperformed and gutted the Eagle defense. Is that Jalen Hurts' fault? Is that the lack of Jalen Hurts? Is that CJ/GJ's fault? That might be, actually, for getting thrown out of the game. He can't keep his mouth shut. And about the CJ/GJ thing, the first personal foul penalty that he got, or unsportsmanlike conduct penalty that he got for, I don't know what he did, but somebody hit him and then he got called for the penalty. I am so sick and tired of you people out there who think you know what you're doing when it comes to officiating, trying to step in there and demand excuses or demand answers. That's not you're not part of that. You're not on the ground dealing with these guys do at all sports, at all levels. 95% of you don't have the fucking courage to get on the field, on the ice, or on the court and officiate games. So stop critiquing them because you don't know what it's like to step on the shoes. And if you did, you would understand where these guys are coming from. All right? Do they make mistakes? All the damn time. Do they miss things? All the damn time. But they don't owe you nothing. They don't owe you an exam. They don't owe you an excuse. Fans they're not part of the game in their world. That's just the way it is. So stop trying to think you know what you're talking about. You don't know. I don't know why he got thrown out of the game. Obviously, what he said was that egregious that it got him the first one. And whatever happened on the second one, whatever that was probably, what did the ref say later on? It was taunting. He's going to characterize it as taunting. Well, guess what? He was probably warned. You know, when games begin to spiral out of control, and they do that from time to time. Games get out of control. Players are in some games you're involved in, and I'll speak from a personal level. You see it right off the bat. You see, they're not interested in playing the sport. They're interested in hurting people. They're interested in rubbing your nose and some stuff. And as the officials, your job is to make sure it doesn't completely spiral out of control. Now, you got to set a tone sometimes. You got to send a message at times to teams and players and coaches that this kind of stuff ain't going to be tolerated. And this is what's going to happen if stuff does happen. It's called the big boy and girl world of cause and effect. And I'm certain that whatever happened that got him thrown out of that game was probably warned, probably more than once. And then they just ran out of patience. So about the officiating nonsense, either step up, become an official, inflict change, or shut your mouth, because you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know the rules. You don't know the ins and outs of the game. You don't know the players' personalities. You don't know who's already been warned about what. You don't know anything. You don't know what's being said on the field, ice, court, whatever. So stop. Was it a perfectly officiated game? No. Are they ever? No. Is it part of the game? Yeah. Is it what makes the game fun? Absolutely. Is it what makes sports infuriating, frustrating, glorious, and all agony, all that roll into one? Yeah. It's all part of the magical thing we call sports. They do their best, but they miss things on both sides of the ball. The Eagles have been recipients of bad calls for the last 2 years. Everyone forgets about the horse collar on Josh Allen last year against the Bills. That wasn't a horse collar. It was the goddamn definition of a horse collar, but it wasn't called. So I don't want to hear the complaining about the refs. It happens. You deal with it. And again, in the profession I used to be in, I dealt with a lot of uncontrollable type circumstances, right? We would prepare ourselves to the best of our ability to execute things. We would go out and we would do what we thought was going to have to be done, or we thought what was going to happen as we were doing what we were going to do. But nine and a half times out of 10, something would go haywire. Something wonky would go not in our favor. Something would spiral out of control. And guess what we would do? We couldn't stop doing what we're doing and bitch and moan and complain. We had to adjust and get through the mission, right? Or guess what? People would die. Then we can come back afterwards and talk how crappy it was. And I'm not comparing what I used to do for a living to what they're doing. I'm just saying it's a poor excuse. And by the way, that's what this is, by the way. It's an excuse. And let me put this up here for you, because tonight's show is definitely being brought to you by the great folks over at Big Al's Excuse Emporium, serving the Delaware Valley and their delusional sports reality issues since the summer of 2024. And new now, of course, visit one-stop shopping, extended holiday hours. Big Al and his staff are there waiting for you right now to service all of your excuse needs. And they have been slam-packed since about 4 o'clock this afternoon. Head on down now. Tell them MattyB sent you. You'll get 5% off your next purchase. I promise you that. Go see Big Al. He's waiting for you. Also, I want to address the fact that people might think I'm happy about what happened today. I'm not. No, not. I don't want to see them lose. I don't. But I also don't believe in that they're winners. I don't believe that they're a championship team. They went into this game today with their opponents with a combined record of their opponents they faced in 2024. Their opponents' combined record was about 20 games under 500. They were a fugazi of a 12-2 football team. And they are a fugazi. They are nowhere near as good as Detroit, Buffalo, or who's the other one? Detroit, Buffalo, or why am I drawing a blank on the third? Kansas City, goddammit. Who, by the way, respectively, their opponents' combined record in 2024 is about 2 games under 500 heading into play today. But I'm not happy about this. I'm not, man. I'm upset that they lost. I'm more upset that they were exposed in that loss. And I'm really, really upset that the Eagle fans, a certain sect of you, not all of you, but a certain sect of you are running a narrative right now. Either we were cheated, which is ridiculous, or what's the other narrative? That even though we lost, we proved to everybody that how important Jalen Hurts is. What insanity is that? Okay, you're right. You got me. He's important. I mean, is that what you're going to say heading into a Super Bowl? If you lose them in the first quarter and then eventually lose the game or in the playoffs? You know, it was hard, man. We fought hard, but Jalen Hurts is important. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? So, what are we at here? Whoa, man, you guys are killing me. I found Sal with that new guy you were telling me about, and he's a homer. Mike. Oh, yeah, the post game today. He's a homer in the same boat as Phil. He was crying over referees and Pickett and everything. Mike's okay. Listen, Phil's okay, too. Just because they're delusional, Barbara, doesn't make them bad people. Come on. We are more tolerant. We are more tolerant than that, right, Barbara, me and you? Because we see the reality. They're in the clouds. They're like, well, you know, I want to say this the right way. I don't want to make it sound like they're like addicts, right? We got to get them clean. That's all. We got to get them cold turkey. We got to get them into the rehab, and we got to get them off the junk. All right, that's what we got to do, Barbara. We got to help them. We have an obligation. Mike's a good dude. He's a homer, but he's a good dude. So is Sal. Man, they're all homers, man. What do you want from me, Barbara? I can't control that. He tried to tell me that Pickett came in with 21-0 score when it was 7-0 when he came in. I thought it was 14-0 when he came in. Oh, no, that's right. It was 7-0. Listen, Pickett, I was okay with the way Pickett played. You know, I was. The defense failed. So did the special teams. Barbara, did you know, and everybody else who's listening, that in the second half, the Commanders' average starting field position after kickoffs was their own 39-yard line? That's what they were averaging. That's terrible. They were getting the ball out close to the 40-yard line to start every possession. So the defense to even start the drives was working with the short field. I mean, you can only do so much. And Jalen Hurts couldn't have saved that. You know, he couldn't have done any of that. He couldn't have fixed that. He wasn't on special teams. Oh, Phil, how you doing? I'm curious how Jalen Hurts quit, as you claimed. Quit? Today? As I claimed. Jalen Hurts got hurt today. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. You're talking about that thing with Mitch? Oh, yeah. All right. I'll let you know. So, first of all, this opinion was elicited without my volunteering it. I was asked a question. Not by Phil, by somebody else. And the question was supporting the narrative conversation about Eagle fans being more or being justified by what happened today because of the fact that it proved that their quarterback is important. And I was asked if I felt the same way, if I still felt the same way about Jalen Hurts as I had prior to the game with Pickett. And I said, and then I'm paraphrasing myself, so I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said I thought Jalen Hurts is an average to above average quarterback. He's a starter in this league, but he's not a winner, nor is he a champion. And he's also a quitter. I did say that. But that had nothing to do with today. He quit Alabama when the going got tough, right? Isn't that what happened? He quit Alabama when he got benched? Am I wrong? Did I misread that? Or did I miswatch that? Or did I mislive through that? No, nothing to do with today. No, he got hurt. But he quit Alabama, right? When the going got tough, he got going. Isn't that what happened? That's the definition of quitting, right? Or some of you like to say he went off to a better opportunity. I mean, that's quitting, right? That's what I meant. If that helps you out, Phil. I try to tell them that the backup quarterback in the NFL is just not as good as a starter. No, they're not, Barbara. But let me tell you this. Why can't they be? Right? Why can't the backup quarterback be? And I've heard this narrative being tossed around too today. Well, Pat Mahomes, if he went down, then the Chiefs would be in a way. Or if Josh Allen went down, they would be in a way. Or if Jared Goff went down, they would be in a way. So on and so forth. And I agree with all that. But one, who cares what happens with them? And two, why does it have to be like that, right? Why can't you as an organization, and then everyone wants to laud Howie for being the greatest thing since sliced bread, find an adequate backup, right? Mariota wasn't adequate. Kenny Pickett's looking like he's maybe not adequate. Probably not. Isn't Howie Roseman the greatest GM ever walked the face of the earth? And didn't he give up sort of high draft capital to get Pickett, like a third-round pick? Am I right about that? So is it? Am I here to say of all this negativity towards Kenny Pickett, is that geared towards Howie Roseman too? Ooh, that's juicy. But I agree with you. Barbara. But does it have to be like that? Why can't we break the mold? Now, granted, the Sam Darnolds of the world come along once every now and again, and also the Nick Foleses of the world come along once in a world. And if they're so good, they wouldn't be backups anyway, so on and so forth. And it's a tough little thing to work through. I got you there, but isn't it the job of every NFL team to have competent backups on their football team, to include the quarterback? Again, I'm just asking. Maybe I'm wrong. Matty, you're hitting the nail on the head about Barkley dropping passes, Smith too, and the defense was atrocious. Yeah, exactly. That had nothing to do with Jalen Hurts being there or not being there. GJ getting thrown out of the game had nothing to do with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Carter getting flagged for another personal foul, or a couple of them, I thought, 15-yarders, had nothing to do with that. Saquon dropping passes. Devontae Smith dropping the pass right in his hands that would have essentially iced the game. Had nothing, and that was right in his hands. That wasn't Kenny Pickett's fault. That had nothing to do with Jalen Hurts not being in the game or not. Right? I mean, again, more went into this than just Kenny Pickett. Did Kenny Pickett try to hold on with dear life and pray and hold on, please God, let me win? Of course he did. He's the backup quarterback playing in a system that's not designed for him. Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni are throwing plays together on the fly for him to try to be successful with. And they probably weren't very successful. And he did the best he could. I believe him when he said in postgame, I did the best I could. And I agree with you. I thought he did. But at the end of the day, they lost. And it wasn't Kenny Pickett's fault. It was Kenny Pickett's fault, Saquon Barkley's fault, Devontae Smith's fault, A.J. Brown's fault, the entire special teams with the exception of Jake Elliott, the entire defense, the coaching staff, everybody. It was all their fault. It's a team game. They lost as a team. And that's the bottom line. Now, there was a lot of factors and X factors. They lost the quarterback. They were getting picked on by the refs. All those things that people want to complain about. But guess what? That's part of the game. That's what you do. It's not a perfect world. And if you don't like it, wear a helmet. I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. 2 unsportsmanlike penalties and automatic ejection, if they weren't really bad, but you get to your Barbara. Exactly correct. It doesn't matter what. Again, we're not on the field dealing with it. We're not in the middle of a bunch of millionaires fighting for their lives and financially, fighting for their jobs, talking all kinds of smack to each other, breaking all kinds of morality and ethics on that field, doing all kinds of stuff. I bet you 99.9% of the stuff they let go would probably make a sailor blush, right? But when they step over that line, which I guarantee you is blurred as it is, it must be really that bad. So I am not going to sit here and pretend to judge the official for what he did to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I'm not, because I wasn't down there. I wasn't in the middle of that. I wasn't on the field as the game was developing and what he was doing earlier in the game, what he's done earlier in the season, what he's done throughout his career. am not involved in that. So to sit here and say, oh, woe is me, I got ejected. Come on, man. Take some accountability for your own actions. All right. You weren't ejected because you looked at somebody the wrong way. You were ejected because you crossed over an already blurred line. All right. So let's be adults about all this. And it is what it is. And you hurt your team. You hurt the Eagles down the stretch. Jaden Daniels, what was his numbers on the day? Let me throw these at you. Jaden Daniels, 24 for 39, 258 yards, averages only 6 yards a pass, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The Eagles only got to him 1 time for 3 yards, had a QBR of 95.7. He's got no weapons. Brian Robinson was fumbling all over the place. His quarterback rating was 99.1. The Commanders tried to give this Jaden Daniels, with the exception of the touchdowns, didn't have himself in a world-beating game, but he was more effective than Kenny Pickett was, and he sliced apart the Eagle defense. And he got me over 30 points on my fantasy team. He's my quarterback. So blame me. Blame MattyB for the loss today. That's fine. I can handle that. But let's look in the mirror. There should be a lot of mirrors. And doesn't every locker stall have a mirror? And they all should be looking into it right now tonight. I think the new guy, Mike, I think his name is Works. Yeah, well, yeah, Barbara, he could. I think he might do seasonal work there. Yeah, I think he does. Mike's a good guy. Mike's not a slobbering homer, Barber. He's not a slobbering homer. He is a homer. He's afflicted. He's touched, but he's not a slobbering homer. Pat, what's going on, brother? Vikings are playing well, 2 way over their heads, the opposite of the Eagles. But, Barbara, it's all going to matter here. None of this matters. Absolutely, Barbara. And here's also the bottom line. Even if, okay, they lost, right? And it hurts. You get it? It hurts. It hurts, right? 10-game losing streak. Yeah, it hurts. It's over, right? But at the end of the day, does it really matter? Right? What's the prize here? The prize is the Super Bowl, right? Washington's in the playoffs. More than likely, this is all going to work out. The Eagles are going to face the Commanders in the first round at the Link. So you're going to get another shot, right? So what does it really matter at this point? Know what you do? Okay. In the war of winning a Super Bowl, the Eagles lost the battle today, but they haven't lost the war. The war is far from over. Lick your wounds, go back, do some self-reflection, do some self-scouting, some self-coaching. And then the coaches do some real coaching. Let's stop getting players thrown out of games. Let's figure out why Quinyon Mitchell got ripped apart today. Let's figure out why Jaden Daniels tore the Eagle defense apart. Let's try to figure out that there's not a blueprint now floating around about how to beat the defense. All that. Let's try to figure that stuff out. And let's focus on clinching the division next week against the Cowboys, and then letting the chips fall where they may for the rest of the way through. Now, whether or not Kenny Pickett's the quarterback next week, whether or not he should be the quarterback next week will be the next conversation later on in the week. It doesn't matter. We all we need, right? 2017, Nick Foles, Carson Wentz went down, season-ending injury, and they had no other choice but to rely on Foles, right? So that's what they're going to have to do. The problem is with this is the homers, Barbara, and everybody else out there that has a sense of perspective. It's the homers and driving their narrative. The homers of driving the narrative that Jalen Hurts is an elite quarterback, which he's not. It's driving the narrative that we can't win without Jalen Hurts. It is some of the most ignorant stuff I've ever heard in my life. Right? It's not, let's focus on getting better with what we got and going forward with what we got, but let's focus instead on the impact of Jalen Hurts and how much it hurts us if he's not there. That's what's concerning me about, especially from the fan side of things. I'm not concerned about the football team's reaction to that because they'll be professional about it. But for the fans, they're looking at this the wrong way. They're looking at it, oh, we lost Jalen Hurts. One, he's proven that he's very important to this team, which is the most ignorant thing I've ever heard in my life. And 2, we're not going to win without him. That's my concern. That's my concern. Yep, every starting quarterback is important to their team. Every quarterback. Every quarterback, not every starting quarterback. Every quarterback. Losing Jalen somehow send a ripple effect to the defense. What? Pat, come on, man. What the hell are you talking about? Pat, please, man. I'm going to click off this and go ahead and delete this. What are you talking about? Sends a ripple effect to the defense. So you're telling me the defense was affected by the loss of Jalen Hurts? Now, maybe they were affected by the amount of time they spent on the field because they weren't getting as many long sustaining drives as they would with Jalen Hurts. Yeah, maybe. But are you talking like from a emotional standpoint? I hope you're talking about X's and O's here, because I disagree if you're talking the other side. You're 100% on Hurts. He quit Alabama after they replaced him. Exactly. I don't know. You can call it. Certain other people can call it what it is, or they can call it what they want to call it. They can call it that he sought a better opportunity in Oklahoma or a better situation in Oklahoma. You can dress it up any way you want it, but the bottom line was he was told by Saban that he was done, wasn't going to be the starter anymore, so he quit. Right? Isn't that how we do things in the big boy and girl world? We own our actions. We don't try to church them up, dress them up, slap a dress on a pig, that kind of thing. I mean, he quit, correct? Am I wrong? Am I reading the tea leaves wrong there? Did I take that all wrong? Did he not quit Alabama when he was benched? I'm just asking. Maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but that's what it looked like to me. I wanted them to sign Fields over Pickett. Yeah, and you might have your wish too, because I think every Steeler quarterback is a free agent at the end of the year, so he'll be a free agent again. I remember heading into the offseason, and the Pickett trade surprised me too. I know Howie was coveting Kenny Pickett for a long time. It was almost kind of like a equated to the Daryl Morey, James Harden thing. You really wanted him for a long time. And I think that it was an emotional move by Howie Roseman to pick up Kenny Pickett. I think it was. So yeah, they got to upgrade. They got to bring in a quarterback that fits Jalen Hurts' skill set a little bit better than Kenny Pickett. A lot of clutch drop. Yeah, Pat, absolutely. And did that have anything to do with Jalen Hurts? Those balls were thrown directly into these guys' fingers, hands, hit them off the chest, all those things. And they dropped them, man. It's okay to say that. And it's also okay to say that Jalen Hurts is not an elite quarterback. It's okay to say that. You can still win without that. But trying to drive your narrative that he's an elite quarterback through all this by saying, look, see, I told you they lost because of Jalen Hurts. It's ridiculous, man. Jalen Hurts doesn't play defense. Jalen Hurts doesn't play special teams. Jalen Hurts wasn't giving up big kick returns on every goddamn kickoff. Jalen Hurts did not get ejected from the game for taunting. Jalen Hurts did not commit 10 penalties for 91 yards. That wasn't Jalen Hurts. That was the team. Jalen Hurts was part of it, but so was all that other stuff. Jalen Hurts being in that game and not being in that game, in my opinion, affected the game, but not to the degree that a lot of these homers want you to believe it did. So let's go through the stat pack real quick. Eagles were 2 for 4 in the red zone today. That's not going to get it done either. On the season, they're now 34 for 58 for 58% effective rate in the red zone. Me and Kyle go over this every week in the pregame show. 58% in the red zone for the season. That's not a warm and fuzzy heading into the playoffs. They did score 21 first half points. Lost in all of this is the 3 first quarter touchdowns. They doubled their entire first quarter touchdown output of the entire season in one quarter. 3 first quarter touchdowns. They went into the game with 3 first quarter touchdowns all season, and they scored 3 in this game. They scored their first opening drive touchdown of the season. Hallelujah. En route to 21-point first half. Follow that up with a 12-point second half. Ain't going to get it done. The Eagles have been recipients of poor first halves and strong second halves all season long. They got a taste of their own medicine today. On the season so far, the Eagles have now scored 177 first half points for about 11.8 points a half and have scored 225 second half points for 15. They committed 10 penalties for 91 yards, 92 penalties now for 658 yards on the season. 5 forced 5 turnovers. It's almost like you don't even want to say that. You just want to force 5 turnovers. You don't even want to talk about that. They forced 5 turnovers today and lost. Oh, man. 21 now on the year, about 1.5 a game. They committed 2 turnovers, one at the end of the game. They're doing the lateral drill, but, it goes out as a turnover. Kenny Pickett also had the interception. 15 now on the year for 1 a game. They allowed Kenny Pickett, did Jalen get sacked? They allowed the quarterback to get sacked 4 times for 27 yards. They got to Jaden Daniels 1 time for 3 yards. They got to him 1 time in this game for 3 yards. Is that Jalen Hurts' fault? Is that, that having to do with Jalen Hurts? Why was the Eagle defense unable to get to Jaden Daniels more than 1 time? Where was the push up front? Where was the pressure that we've seen, since about week 5 of the season? They got to Jaden Daniels 1 time for 3 yards. 4th down, they were 3 for 3 on 4th down conversions, 17 for 25 now on the year, close to 70% effective on 4th down. But the fact that they had to go for it 3 times on 4th down tells you a lot about this game. And of course, at the end of the day, the Eagles lost 36-33, falling now at 12-3, ending their 10-game winning streak. And now the question remains, and this is probably the bigger question coming out of this game. And unfortunately, after we talk the stats, we talk about the penalties, the ejections, the points. The bottom line is now we're coming out. The biggest narrative in town right now is that because of the loss of Jalen Hurts, it supports his notion of being an elite quarterback and that he's important to this team. That is the biggest bottom line story coming out of this loss. And that scares me because we've lost perspective as a fan base. We lost perspective what this is all about. It's about winning a Super Bowl. It's not about Jalen Hurts winning an MVP. It's not about Saquon Barkley winning an MVP. It's about winning a Super Bowl. But if all we can pull out of this is how important Jalen Hurts is to the team, then the fan base, they need to do some self-scouting too. Because that's a shame. Right? That's a shame. Call it hate. Call me a Negadelphian. Call me a hater. I am not a Jalen Hurts supporter. I am also not a Jalen Hurts detractor either. I don't care either way. I want a guy in there that can win. Jalen Hurts is not a winner. What has he won? What has Jalen Hurts won? Tell me. A bunch of regular season games. Well, you know who else won a bunch of regular season game and gets constantly vilified in this town? It's Donovan McNabb. He won 93 games in his career as an Eagle starting quarterback. How do we remember him? Is the word elite leap out of your mouth when you talk about Donovan? No. Because the big thing on Donovan was he wasn't a winner. What has Jalen Hurts won to this point? What has he won? He's not a winner. He's not a champion. In the biggest of moments, he's come up short. And that's not me. That's just reality. That's what's happened. It's not me making up a narrative. It's not me trying to force feed you lies. It's what the truth is. He's not an elite quarterback. He's just what I said he is. An average to an above average starting quarterback in this league. Who's a quitter? And the only way to prove it otherwise is to go out and win. And win it all. I don't know. I don't know what else to say, man. Again, I'm not making stuff up. I wish I was. Steve! Why are we continuing running zones with Kenny Pickett? Unbelievable. Run him under center. That was the real offensive issue. That's what I'm talking about, Steve. A fresh perspective. Talking about Kenny. What the fuck are we continuing running zones with Kenny Pickett? Unbelievable. Yeah, that's really a good question, Steve. Did Kellen Moore and did Nick Sirianni, did they do enough to support Kenny Pickett in this game? They had to come up with a whole new game plan on the fly, but you know what? They get paid the big money to do that. But did they do enough to change things for Kenny Pickett? Now, Kenny Pickett looked competent through large stretches of this game, but then ultimately he looked incompetent, right? It just, you never felt like he's going to lead us to victory. That touchdown pass he threw was nice. And I thought things were turning. I'm like, oh, damn, it's going to be a blowout. Kenny Pickett's going to create a quarterback controversy. Then it didn't work out that way. Did the coaching staff provide Kenny Pickett with enough? Did they do enough for him? Yeah, that's a good question, Steve. It's a question that I want to know too. 36-33, Eagles lose. Now it's time about picking the pieces up and preparing for next week against the Dallas Cowboys and see where this team will come out from there, right? That's where it really kind of comes down to. Now the division is still hanging in the balance, but now you have an opportunity to win it at home. Now you have the opportunity to win it at home. And with sometimes on the LOS, these bubble screens we grew to hate were there for the taking. Yeah, that's a great point. They didn't run anything intermediate today with him, right? There was nothing out of the backfield. There was nothing coming off the line. I mean, I know Jalen Hurts has got problems with slants and patterns and timing and all that. And I also, before he went out of the game, Jalen Hurts attempted 4 passes, only 1 to the middle, and it was incomplete. For the season now, Jalen Hurts has attempted 361 passes for only 48 passes towards the middle of the field for 7.5% of the offense that the Eagles run through Jalen Hurts is through the middle. But as far as Kenny Pickett goes, you're right. Where was the slot guys? Where was Dotson against his old team? What did we give him? Another 3rd round pick for that guy? So here we are. What was it, a 4th round pick we gave up for Pickett? Whatever. It's a 4th and a 3rd round pick for 2 players that came up somewhat small today. That's your GM trading away draft capital for ineffective players. Where's the hate and vitriol effect on Howie Roseman? Does he face any blame here today? No one wants to point their cannons to Howie Roseman. You know, gave up some pretty primo draft capital for Dotson, who, what's he got, like 5 catches on the season? Right? Yeah, where was he at? Why was nothing being worked away from the Eagles? Have they run a screenplay all season? To anybody? Good point, Steve. There was no creativity. They tried to go Kenny Pickett vertical with his small hands and gloves, and it didn't work. But it almost worked. Defense came up short. That final drive, did that not remind people of the Falcon game? But did it also not remind people of the Cleveland game? But did it also not remind people of the Jacksonville game? Last count, 5 games now have come down to a final drive, and that the Eagles have stopped 2 of them, or stopped 3 of them and not stopped 2 of them. Let that sink in a little bit as you're looking and starting to kind of piece together the Eagle dominant season. That 5 of these games have come down to game-ending drives that the Eagles were on defense for. And as I said, they stopped 3 of them and they didn't stop 2 of them. Ball tips a different way. Ball bounces another way. The Eagles are not 12-3. They're like 8-6 or 8-5 or 8-7, whatever. And so again, I don't see the domination there. I don't see the domination there at all. But Eagles did win, or no, they didn't. They lost 36-33. And with that loss ends the 10-game winning streak. And with that loss comes a bunch of questions. And with that loss comes a bunch of sour grapes, man. We lost because of the ref. We lost because of a cheap hit. Come on, man. Do what you got to do. You drive forward, man. This game is played by men, right? Right? I mean, men are out there. I'm watching Baker Mayfield right now. I love his attitude. He's a leader. He is a leader. Barbara, would you take Baker Mayfield over Jalen Hurts right now? Anybody? I wouldn't. Would you take Jared Goff over Jalen Hurts? I would. Take Matt Stafford over Jalen Hurts? I would. Josh Allen over Jalen Hurts? I would. Pat Mahomes? Yeah, I would. How many quarterbacks would you take over Jalen Hurts right now? If you could trade him out right now for anybody, who would you take? Or would you not take anybody and say, that's my guy, number 1 in my heart and on the field, Jalen Hurts? Are we going to ask the question of who would suit the team better? Who gives us the better chance of winning? Or are we going to ask the question, who drives our narrative that Jalen Hurts is an elite quarterback better? Somebody else or Jalen Hurts? You be the judge. Wow, man, an hour on the Eagles. You guys are keeping me cooking tonight. We got a whole bunch of other stuff to get through tonight, man. I got so much to talk about. I guess with the Eagles, I guess we can go into another conversation, football related. Steve says, I want to see how Sirianni navigates this adversity because he did a bang-up job last year. That is my concern. Steve, he did do a bang-up job. You know why? Because he didn't change a thing, right? Came out with everything the same week after week after week. Rome was burning down around him, and we didn't change a thing. But good point. But what's the adversity, Steve? What's the adversity heading into the Dallas game? Is it the health of the quarterback? Is it the attitude of your certain players on this team about not getting thrown out of games, committing the stupid penalties? Because honestly, let's face it, we can look at a lot of things on offense and say, it didn't work out. But, Smith, AJ, and Saquon all dropping key balls at key moments of this game. Does it happen like every game? No, it doesn't. It was sort of an anomaly, or I hope it was. Right? The offense was moving the football adequately with what they were dealing with, I thought, for the most part in this game. They were. And also lost in all this, the Commanders suck. Does everybody know that, right? The Commanders stink. Again, I'm gonna bring up the records again here in a second, but the Commanders stink. Don't put that out there too. So is it the defense is it Vic Fangio once again in the breach here, Steve? Is that the adjustments you're looking for? Because all the issues really that I saw coming out of this game that really affected the outcome were kind of on the defensive side of the ball, between players getting ejected, the penalties, and then the end of the game drive. They're all on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, how much are you looking for more from the defensive side? Are you looking more from the offense? Are you looking for a collective sort of down the middle adjustment from this team? But that's an interesting point, Steve. Adversity. Is this adversity? Are the Eagles going to treat this as adversity? Are they going to look at losing for the first time in over 2 months as true adversity? Or are they going to blow it off? And that's also the coach's job. And what does Sirianni do about that? Good point. We didn't expect what happened today to happen, hon. Well, no, of course not, Barbara. We don't. I mean, absolutely not. But we should. In any given Sunday, anybody can get hurt. Any given Sunday, anything can happen, right? Did the Eagles lose? Not only did the Eagles lose on the field, did they get beat in their heads too? Did the Washington Commanders bully the Philadelphia Eagles in this football game today? They beat them on all levels of the emotional, mental, and physical plane. Did that happen? Was there a total submission of will from the Philadelphia Eagles to the Washington Commanders today on that field? Was there a bigger loss going on that field that we were aware of? Have the Eagles lost the mental edge today? I know the fans have. Oh, yeah. Oh, the refs, they blame me. They're mean refs. They don't know what they're doing. I blame the refs. It's not a penalty. He made me in the head. Come on. What really happened? It's like a rare plane crash. A lot of things have to go wrong for the disaster to happen. Just how much little things we need to be fixed. We will see. Yeah. And that's kind of what went down with last year, right? That little, who was it? Maybe a little hiccup in engine number one and against the 49ers turned into losing engine number one by that second game, turned into a fire in the rear cabin in the third game, turned into the sputtering of engine number two by the fourth game. And then by the Giants game, or I guess by the Buccaneer game in the playoffs, it was Mayday, 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 we're going down. Is that's kind of what you're getting at, Steve? I think I got it. Don't want to be labeled as front runners. Who, Barbara? The fan base? Or you personally? Or the Eagles? Who don't you want to be labeled as front runners? I know you're not talking about me. I know that ain't happening, but who are we talking about, Barbara? I'm interested to know. I would love to know what CJ. Yeah, so would I. Actually, you know what? The ref lent some clarity by saying it was taunting, and he wouldn't get into the X's and O's. And you know what? I appreciate that from the ref, because much like the locker room, Steve, The field is the inner sanctum. What stays on that field should stay on that field. It doesn't need to get into the stands. And the rant I had to go on earlier was the audacity of some fans, and I'll throw them out there. Phil, your boy, your little morning homeboy, saying that he deserves an explanation. No, you don't, Phil. You're a fan. You're insignificant to what's happening on the field. You're nothing. You don't matter to them. You don't matter to the players. You don't matter to the officials. You're a fly in your ear. So, no, you don't deserve an explanation. None of us do. And matter of fact, I'm glad they're not going to give one. Or if they do give one, it needs to be vague, because you don't want to violate the trust of the players and things that are being said in the heat of battle in this modern age to be taken completely out of context and blown completely up. So, but you're right. I like to know what he said too. Fan base, not you or me. Oh, yes, the fan base. They don't want to be labeled as front runners. Oh, come on, Barbara. Yes, they do. Well, it's a great question. Do they want to be labeled as don't want to be labeled as front runners? Listen, Barbara, I don't think they have that to be worried about. 99.9% of the Eagle fan base are loyal fans to the end, right? There's only 1% that kind of fall into a whole different category. And I'm actually in that 1%. But, it is what it is. Yeah. So, but you're right. No, I don't consider you a front runner either, Barbara. But listen, I got some stuff I got to do here. We're over an hour and I still got to have a show to do. So let's move on real quick, but I will definitely re-engage the Eagle Talk. And whenever you need it to be engaged, just keep dropping comments in there. But I do want to address the other major news that occurred over the weekend. Howard Eskin, that's right, friend of the show, friend of mine, not mentor, but voice of my youth when it came to sports. Whether you like him or if you don't like him, and whether or not you support him or if you don't support him, I'm interested to know that, because I don't really care. Called it quits for whatever reason. I heard it was a mutual parting of the ways, which means he got fired, right? But for whatever reason, of course, he's been under a little stress there lately for some actions that he allegedly did over the summer. But you know what? Like him or hate him, you got to give them his props. What he did, and he was a voice of so many, for me at least. There are certain things that I do not think about, much like with Harry and Richie, the voice of summer. Howard Eskin is the voice of Philadelphia sports in my inner monologue as a kid. And that will never change. And I hope Howard has found peace with whatever is going on. And I wish him all the best. And to tell him that he's more than welcome anytime to throw down a 10 stake here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. I would have him in a heartbeat. And if he's looking for a real challenge to put me on the map. But yeah, so Godspeed, Howard Eskin. Thank you for 38 years of honesty and 38 years of being real. Whether or not you agreed with that honesty or you agreed with him the way he was, I don't really care. That's not what this is about. This is about him being real and not being fake. And maybe he got a little fake there at the end, but we'll see. But yeah. But all right, so I just wanted to address that real quick because I thought it deserves to be talked about. I would send a prayer to Cosme on a huge show, but yeah. Well, again, Steve, you don't know what else was going on. Jalen Carter's reputation is proceeding. Again, we saw what we saw. It was nothing. I agree. But what was all that was going on that led up to that? What was not just that play, but the play before that, or the game before that, or the game before that? These players develop reputations. These officials talk with each other. There's a pregame every game, and they discuss, hey, keep an eye out for number 96. Keep an eye out for this coach. Keep an eye out for this guy, this guy, and this guy. They have a reputation. So you can't blame the officials for trying to throw a net over a situation before it got out of control. You don't know what else was going on. I've said this at the top of the show like 10 hours ago when I started this thing. that at some games with some officials, it's more of damage control and controlling the situation than it is officiating the game, because players have decided to take the game into their own hands and do something different with it. Now you as the official have to jump in and be a policeman in the game and stop things before they happen or mitigate things before they escalate out of control. Some of those games happen a lot, and it's unfortunate because it ruins the aspect of the game. It does, but it happens because there are human beings and people make mistakes. So I don't know what happened, but I'm sure something else was involved in that was perceived by the official as going over the edge. So again, going on the same lines of I wasn't on the field, I wasn't involved in that, I can't speak on it, and I have to accept their professional discretion, whether or not I like it or not. It is what it is. They're not guys that were walking down the street at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning and said, hey, psst, buddy, you want to be a ref? That didn't happen. These guys are trained. These guys spend years developing their abilities. And they go out there and do the best they can. I just saw that he quit. Yeah, he stepped away back on Friday. I actually met him a few years ago. He's really short. Yeah, I know he's short. He is short. All right, so Howard has get stepping down. Listen, let's continue moving through this show because I still got a Christmas movie to do. Baseball real quick. Phillies were fast with all this other stuff going. Why would you announce a trade on a Sunday morning during the playoff push? But the Phillies did something today. I don't know if you guys are following it or if you care or if you're upset, but I am going to put it up here. Jesus Luzardo, the left-hand pitcher formerly of the Florida Marlins or Miami Marlins, is now a Philly. That's right. 12 games he appeared in 2024 with an ERA of 5, 58 strikeouts and 22 walks. Did miss significant time due to injury issues throughout the season, both beginning and end. He joins now Jordan Romano as the other member of the walking wounded staff, and Max Kepler, another walking wounded, as the Phillies are building a triage unit for 2024, banking on players to have better 2025s than they did in 2024. Luzardo fills a need if he can pitch like he did in 23. He fills a need in that fifth starter role, which seemingly would signal the end of Taijuan Walker. So the Phillies are making moves, whether you agree with them or you don't agree with them. That's another story, but they're making moves. But it came with a price. Starlin Caba and Emarian Boyd, two young, lower-level minor league guys, high up on the Phillies prospect and on Major League Baseball's prospect chart, were sent to the Marlins in return for Luzardo. I made a post earlier today that the dismantling of the Phillies minor league system has now begun. It took Dave Dombrowski a couple years, but now he's getting to it. I don't know if I like this price that they paid for Luzardo. I don't. These players, Caba and Boyd, are still years away from the Phillies. Caba ended the season with Clearwater at low A. Boyd ended it with the high A in Jersey Shore. So they're both 3 to 4 years away from even sniffing Major League Baseball. But they were high up on the Philly prospect list. Caba's second baseman, right? A second baseman, which I got it. Stott's filling that position now, but you never know. And he was definitely had some upswing. Young player. Boyd, a speedy player. I don't know if I like the price we paid for Luzardo, but for whatever it is, Luzardo is here in 2024, or 25. So deal with that. I don't know. It's all, yes, it is. It's all Jesus' fault. Hawkeye is going to be the new manager. Yes, he is. Yes. And Klinger will be the pitching coach. Phillies are really dumpster diving lately. They're trusting in a lot of reclamation projects. And as I said, they're running a triage unit here. The walking wounded. I always thought that Cabot was on the Glavis track. I don't know. Steve, you think that? Again, it's too young. I mean, he finished the season in low A, so he was years away from it. So I get the logic around the trade, and I understand he was somewhat considered, spendable. I get all that, but I don't know. I don't like two high-level minor league prospects, even though they're on the younger side and on the slower track to the Phillies, high up on the prospect list. It's Dombrowski finally getting around to dismantling the system, and that's to me more what it spells, and that's what concerns me more about this trade. But there you go. So there you have the Phillies with their trades. Oh, by the way, 53 days till pitchers and catchers report to spring training down in Clearwater, for those of you keeping track at home, which of course I am. But that's not going to stop us, because we're literally, 5 days from Christmas? 3 days from Christmas? Today's the 22nd? Oh my God, 3 days till Christmas. And over the past 8 or 9 days or so here on the program, I've been doing MattyB's top 10 Christmas movie of all time list. And now we're up to number 2. That's right. We've gotten to the top, almost to the top of the mountain. Let's recap the top 10, shall we? It's a Wonderful Life at 10. Any version of the Christmas Carol at 9. Number 8 is Elf. Number 7 is the Santa Claus. 6, Scrooged. That's right. I delineate between any version of the Christmas Carol and Scrooge as being 2 separate movies. Number 5 was Home Alone. Number 4 was The Christmas Story. Number 3, The Polar Express. And here we are at number 2 in MattyB's all-time Christmas movie list of all time. A lot of all times in that. Here's my number 2.
If any of you are looking for any last-minute gift ideas for me, I have one. I like Frank Shirley, my boss, right here tonight. I want him brought from his happy holiday slumber over there in Melody Lane with all the other rich people, and I want him brought right here with a big ribbon on his head. And I want to look him straight in the eye, and I want to tell him what a cheap, lying, no-good, rotten, four-flushing, low-life, snake-licking, dirt-eating, inbred, overstuffed, ignorant, blood-sucking, dog-kissing, brainless, dickless, hopeless, heartless, fat-ass, bug-eyed, stiff-legged, spotty-lipped, worm-headed sack of monkey shit he is. Hallelujah! Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?
All right. No other words are needed. Christmas, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Not only the best out of all the National Lampoon movies, even better than the original. Not only that, possibly on the top 10 of funniest movies of all time, regardless of the genre you're talking about. There is no movie that encapsulates family nightmare Christmases than this. Not a Chevy Chase guy, never have been, but I am a Clark Griswold guy. And I'm certainly a Cousin Eddie guy. And when this movie first came out, you know those movies that are quotable? The movies that you just walk around and you say something, shitter's full. And you just know exactly what that's what this is. This is one of those movies that's quotable up and down. It's hilarious. It's not to be taken seriously. It's not to be taken for real. It is a complete satirical look at Christmas with your family, and a strong number 2 on my list. If it weren't for the number 1 movie for being what it is, it would certainly be number 1. But Christmas, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, number 2 on the MattyB all-time favorite Christmas list movies of all time. Tomorrow night, I will not reveal number 1 because there's no show tomorrow night. I have the post game for the Flyers. So it'll be either on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. We will reveal my number 1 Christmas movie of all time. And Steve's asking me, did Die Hard make it? I don't know, Steve. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? We'll find out. And Barbara says, tomorrow is Festivus. Yes, it is for the rest of us there, Barbara. Merry Christmas. Crapper was full. The funniest part of that movie for me is when he's up on the hill with the with this nonstick spray on the sled. That out of all the movie, that scene was the funniest for me. Just the stupidity of that whole thing. Him sliding down the road, sparks flying up the trucker. Ain't nothing more funnier in that. And that movie is. It doesn't have to be Christmas to watch that movie. I love Christmas Vacation. I can watch it. Yes, I absolutely, Barb. Like I just said, Cousin Eddie is a great character. He is definitely a great character. One of the all-time best characters in movie history, supporting wise. I think so. All right, so there you have it. My Christmas list is now complete up to number 2. You have to wait and see what number 1 is. Maybe you'll be surprised. Maybe you won't. I don't know, but I'll reveal that probably later on here, either on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, because I got the post game tomorrow for the Flyers, so I won't be doing a show. But let's move now to the final segment of the night. That's right. It's my favorite segment.
Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad. What? Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad.
Yep. MattyB's card review. This is the part of the night where we sit down and we talk about one of my many cards in my vast sports card collection. We kind of go over it, talk financial value, talk intrinsic value, talk nostalgic value, talk whatever you want about the great art or great hobby of sports card collecting. And we've been kind of fixated on one era of baseball lately, and we're going to stay in that same era. I told you this long time ago. This was the only set of baseball cards I ever completed from the beginning to the end. Back when I was a kid, it was all about completing sets, right? That's what you were judged on. Your card collecting expertise level was by collecting sets or completing sets. It's not like that anymore. Now it's all about the individual card. But back when I was a kid, it was about completing the sets. And this was the only set I ever completed. So it's one of the most highly represented cards in all my collection. It's the 87 Topps. And we're going to stay on baseball with the 87 Topps. And this night's card is a Hall of Famer. That's right. A Hall of Famer that doesn't get much respect, and maybe he should. It is the 87 Eddie Murray. Eddie Murray, Hall of Famer for the main days, of course, his most lucrative days were with the Baltimore Orioles. Did spend some time there with the LA Dodgers towards the end of his career. Bounced around there as well, but a very underrated yet very good first baseman for the Baltimore Orioles in his heyday, and a surprisingly very valuable baseball card. The 87 Eddie Murray, and I found it in a couple different databases, is very valuable to people. The highest I saw this card sold for was $72, and that was just about a month ago. I've seen it everywhere between $2 and $72, so all the way up and down the scale, but very, very highly financially lucrative. I'm very impressed by that, actually. Very surprised that an Eddie Murray from 1987, by the way, 87 was like his 10th year in the league, or like going into his 10th year. And this card from that set is like a $70 card. So there you have it. MattyB's card of the night, the 87 Topps Eddie Murray. And here it is in its physical form. This is a pretty good one. Again, these are all raw cards. None of them are graded. I would say this is probably about, I don't know, about a 9.5, maybe close to a 10. This is one of the cards that came out of that set that wasn't cut bad. So I'll give that maybe a 9.5. So there you have it. MattyB's card review segment. Eddie Murray, 87 Topps. Whew, all right, here we go. Steve says he's going with Home Alone or Die Hard. Home Alone, Steve, is actually number 5 on my list. So one of those are out. Die Hard has not made my list yet. So I don't know, Steve. I grapple with the concept that Die Hard is a Christmas movie or not. You'll have to wait and see, either tomorrow or Wednesday. But Home Alone is number 5 on my list. So it made the cut last week. Eddie drink. Yeah. Yep. Still want to put my food. Yeah, as I said, he's underappreciated, man. But he was obviously the 83 team, he was very much involved in helping them win the World Series. But very overall, Steve, underappreciated during that era. And he played with some great players. And I thought he held his own, and he's rightfully so a Hall of Famer. So Eddie Murray. All right, listen, hour and 20 minutes, a new show record. Obviously, the conversation was driven completely tonight by the Philadelphia Eagles and the fact that you're going to lose them. You're not going to win them all. They lost this game because of a complete, total team breakdown. Not because of Kenny Pickett, not because of the defense, not because of the special teams, but because of Kenny Pickett, the defense, and the special teams, and the coaching. They didn't lose the game because of the refs. They didn't lose the game because Jalen Hurts got hurt. I'm myth-busting that narrative that the homers are pushing, that the only reason why the Eagles lost this game is because they lost their most valuable piece. They did not. Their most valuable piece stayed on the field and couldn't produce anymore after Jalen got hurt. But they didn't lose because of the injury to Jalen Hurts. That they didn't. And that's a narrative that I really hope we as Eagles fans can get past and focus more on what the team's problems were, not what Jalen Hurts' problems. Because there are problems with this team. That's right. There are problems. And this ain't the time of the year to start uncovering them. Okay, this should have been taken care of weeks ago. But that's what happens when you run the table with a 10-game winning streak, and now you have a late season loss. All the alarms and bells are going off, and all kinds of stuff is going to happen. So let's reel it in and focus on what the real problems were today. It was defense, it was special teams, and yes, it was offense. But not because of the loss of Jalen Hurts, because the team did not rally around Kenny Pickett. The coaching staff did not provide Kenny Pickett with probably the best possible route, and his players did not overall perform for him when the chips were down. That is why the Eagles lost. And it's okay. The NFC East still hangs in the balance. Redskins are making it a little bit tighter now, right? But the Eagles have another chance next week at home against the Dallas Cowboys to clinch the division and pretty much wrap up the number 2 seed. Phillies made a move as they begin to assemble the Walking Wounded. The MASH 4077th is coming to Philadelphia in 2025. And Hawkeye Pierce, as Steve has said, will be the manager with Klinger as your pitching coach. Jesus Luzardo joining the Phillies next year, I would imagine, as the 5th starter. And we discussed my number 2 on my all-time movie list of Christmas movie of all time, and our card review segment, which was Eddie Murray. We never got to the Flyers, and we never got to the segment of the night. Or of the night segment. I'm sorry. But we'll wait for that for on Tuesday. Or again, Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm not sure yet. I got the post game tomorrow. Let's give you the schedule here on the network. Want to make sure I plug all this stuff right. Tomorrow at 7. Don't forget the wraparound with Sal G. And I'm sure the conversation about the Phillies and the Eagles, but the Eagles will continue. And then I got you tomorrow night after Flyers and Penguins. I got you, matter of fact, all week on the Fights Final, on the Clear the Ice program, as the Flyers will play Monday against Pittsburgh, have the rest of the week off, reconvene out in San Jose and Anaheim against the Ducks on Saturday, Cutter Gauthier and company, and then Sunday against the Kings. I got you for all 3 throughout the into the new year. So make sure you're checking back with us. And then next week, we got the Birds Flyby, Dallas Cowboy edition. That's right. Lost in all this is Dallas week. Does anybody care? The Cowboys eliminated today, along with the 49ers. Does anybody care that it's Dallas week? Probably not. But we got you covered for the Eagles Cowboys next week, too. Maybe we can talk division championship next week. Till we talk again tomorrow night on the Clear the Ice program, you guys have a great rest of your night and an even better tomorrow. We'll see you.
I've been coming up hot for a minute. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. I drop the top when I'm in it. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. Yeah, I'm so. Everybody know I'm you know when it click through. Turn the send this about to be a so be fine.